I'm Lisa, and you're with Velo Dulce, the show where we talk women, cycling, and life. Velo Dulce is from the Italian phrase La Vida Dolce, which means the good life. These are stories from women around the world on finding the good life through life on a bicycle. Today is a special edition of the show. I am hosting myself, not because I love the sound of my own voice, but because I recently cycled the Camino de Santiago, and it was a very soulful experience, and I wanted to share. So for those of you who don't know, the Camino de Santiago is actually a walk, originally a pilgrim's walk in Spain. It has many different routes. I did the Camino Primitivo, which is the oldest Camino path. It is from my hometown of Oviedo. And it ends, of course, in Santiago de Compostela, which is a very beautiful and famous town in Spain. According to statistics, about 350,000 people walk this path every single year, if you can believe it. Not this specific route, but in general, the Camino. For your interest, there are Camino routes in France and in Spain. The history of this particular Camino Primitivo dates back to the 9th century when Spanish and Asturian king Alfonso II walked to Santiago de Compostela. According to the legend, he completed the Camino to commemorate the discovery of the remains of the Apostle St. James in Compostela. The trip is 321 kilometers. People usually walk it in 12 to 14 days. And 6% of Caminoers cycle, mostly on mountain bike. If you know me at all, you know that I generally like to take the fastest route to places. And so I decided to go on my road bike. I took it in 3 stages. Just for reference, the first stage was from my mother's house in a pueblo. She lives in a pueblo, which is the name for a little village in the mountains, from Villamunin to Vegadeo, and it was 127 k's long. Day 1. Day 2 was from Vegadeo to Lugo. It was 85 kilometers. And day 3 was from Lugo to Santiago, of course, 100 and something kilometers. So today I'm going to take you through the route and then just reflect a bit on what it actually meant for me. So day 1, after 3 weeks of heat wave in Spain, of course, I woke up to rain, but not just rain, pouring rain. And so I set off on day 1. Incidentally, I did it solo. I set off on day 1 solo in the rain. And yes, I had my period too. And so, yeah. You can imagine. But actually, it was really, really beautiful. The road goes from my mother's house down the mountain, along the coast, through little tiny villages where you can stop for coffee or whatever else, bizcocho or pinchos. Pincho is like a roll with something on it. One of the major fascinations to me in Spain is they have the best produce in the world and they don't put them on their rolls. There's no butter, there's just a roll, best bread in the world. and then something like a piece of chicken or a tortilla or something. So anyway, yeah, cycling through the towns was amazing. I was supposed to go and stop and have coffee with a friend of mine who lives along the way, but I got lost. And so that did not happen. But 127 Ks later, I arrived in Vegadeo. People have been asking me how I transported my clothes. So actually there's two ways. One is with Correos, which is the post office here, or DHL, and it's pretty simple. You just send your clothes and you arrive at your hotel and there they are. It's straightforward and as simple as that. People have also asked me what I ate along the way. So day one, I had a good breakfast of oats and yogurt and orange juice and coffee, and then I set off, and then I stopped for a coffee in a place called Luarca. Very, very pretty. I had a quick cup of coffee and then returned to the rain, and then I stopped for lunch. I can't remember where, but I ate a pincho and another cup of coffee before I headed off on my way and got to Vegadeo. Vegadeo is a tiny little pilgrimage town. I had a steak and chips before I climbed into bed. And the next day, the owners of the place I was staying recommended that I stop at a little place called Taramundi. Thankfully, it was not raining. And the road was absolutely beautiful. It was a bit of a climb, but it was magnificent. If you ever are anywhere close to Taramundi, although it may be far from where you are right now, I really suggest that you stop. It is magnificent. It's like a beautiful little mountain town with beautiful little roads and, of course, a little church. Yeah, really unbelievable, like quite timeless actually. So from there I carried on my merry way and I eventually got to Lugo, although there was a lot more climbing that day than I thought there would be, but I've kind of got used to it around here. Lugo is actually also a very famous town, actually older than Santiago de Compostela. Built by the Romans, and the old part of the city is surrounded by Roman walls, and it's very, very quaint. Galicia, which is the province, has absolutely amazing food, and so in Lugo, I was joined by my mom, which was amazing because she had stopped to fetch my clothes on the way. And then we went to Lugo for lunch. Lugo was really, really beautiful and had a great night stay in Lugo. And the next day, day 3, woke up to wind. If you live in South Africa and you've ever cycled in the Vaal, then it was like a Vaal wind. Windy, windy, windy. I have a bit of profile on my road bike wheels, which means it's not a great thing for being in the wind. So it really made life interesting. What made life even more interesting and was a massive lesson for me is that I did not download the route onto my Garmin. And so I was reliant on Google, but up until that stage, I didn't really have a problem. Well, I was about to have a big problem because Google, how it looked on Google Maps looked pretty straightforward. It looked like kind of one road all the way to Santiago. And I thought, great. And everyone had told me, oh, once you reach day 3, it's not that difficult, so don't worry. But actually, it was pretty difficult. And I got lost and I ended up in this little pueblo where there must have been about 10 houses and a ton of really aggressive looking dogs. And as I got closer to the town, the dogs started barking, and in Spain there's not many like closed gates, so they all came out of the gates and they all started like circling around me, and I got very, very nervous. The one was very aggressive and looked like it wanted to attack me, but it kind of went round the side, and I was like, I had to jump off my bike and basically defend myself with my bicycle. And in a split second, it was definitely a matter of fight or flight. I jumped on the bike. I turned around. I don't even know how I turned around so fast. I jumped on the bike and I sprinted. Well, if you ever want to do some sprint training, just get yourself a pack of dogs which are chasing you for your dear life, and you will sprint faster than you ever have. I would have beat Marianne Vos on that day. I got back to the road. The dogs stopped chasing me after about 20 meters, and I had gotten such a fright that I just stopped and I burst into tears. And I phoned my dear friend Chema, and in Spanish I was kind of sobbing on the phone like, pero no sé dónde estoy. And that's how day 3 started. I eventually found my way. I had to go back some of the way I'd come, which was a bit annoying because it was an extra 10 Ks that didn't need to be cycled. Anyway, I found myself back on my path. Incidentally, el camino in Spanish means the way. And I found myself back in el camino, back on the way. And so I was happy again, and I stopped in a beautiful little town called Sobrado. Stopped in a beautiful little town called Sobrado. I had an amazing cup of coffee, and I thought, great, I will be in Santiago in no time, like kind of hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm there. I was doing great pace, and although there was a lot of wind, I was doing well. Well, just about probably 10 Ks down the road again, I lost the way. I don't know how Google wanted to take me on the small little road, and I was not having any of it. I was like, hell no. Google, you and I are done. Like, we are done. And so I stopped on the side of the road, looking at this little path, thinking, hell no. And there was this farmer about to get on his tractor, and I was like, perdóname. And I stopped in and I was like, listen, can I go down this road to get to, and I named the town, and he was like, why are you alone? that was his first question. And I was like, well, I'm cycling to Santiago, and he was like, okay. He looked at me as if I was crazy, and he was like, well, if you want to get to Santiago, don't take this road. It's going to be a lot of up and down and small farm roads. And I was like, okay, cool. Dude, you tell me where I need to go. And he was like, no, you just go straight. And anyway, it was good that I had his advice, and it was a good lesson for me. I am going to summarize the lessons I learned on the way. And so I continued on the way, and I was doing great time. I started seeing lots of pilgrims. Pilgrims are the people you see walking towards Santiago. Incidentally, people do it for different reasons. Some people do it for spiritual reasons. Some people do it as a sabbatical. Some people do it as kind of a physical challenge. I think as many people as there are, there's probably as many reasons. So I wanted to do it. I will tell you why just now. But anyway, I was on the way once again on my Camino. I was in El Camino. And a couple of Ks from Santiago, once again, Google and I started having issues. It wanted to take me on the highway or down a little gravel path. Incidentally, I ride a road bike. Well, I was riding a road bike to Santiago, and so I couldn't take the gravel path. I could only take a road path. So anyway, Mom to the rescue, came to fetch me for the last couple of kilometers because there was no way to cycle them. It's illegal to cycle on the highway, so please don't do that wherever you are. And I arrived in Santiago to an absolutely packed chock-a-block Santiago. If you ever do the Santiago de Camino, you have to go. It's like a big obligatory. You have to go to the cathedral and have your photo taken. You can actually go inside the cathedral and go to the shells. If you do the actual walk, you get like a little Camino passport and you get stamps in it along the way. But I just rode it, and so I did not get any stamps in any Camino passport. And arrived in Santiago, and Santiago is this incredibly beautiful place. It is a soulful place. It is almost like you've been transported back into medieval times. Tiny little narrow streets and lots of cafes and singing and dancing. There was some kind of fiesta. If you've ever traveled to Spain, it's full of parties and life and jovialness and people singing and dancing and eating and drinking, and that's the Spanish way. And Santiago de Compostela is just an incredible place. We stayed in this beautiful little hotel. It's all kind of very old looking. So most of these old towns are surrounded by big walls, and you walk into the center of town, just as if you would see on the movies from the medieval times. It's quite incredible, and I was so relieved to arrive. I cried and cried. Day 3 was a day of lots of tears. But I arrived all safe and sound, and I couldn't believe I didn't have any punctures on the way. I had a sore foot because my shoe kept poking into my foot, but other than that, I was pretty good. And I arrived in Santiago de Compostela, and I had asked friends of mine weeks before, like, who wants to come to Santiago de Compostela with me? And I'm very fortunate to have a great circle of friends here, but no one wanted to come, or no one could come, or it's Spanish holidays and everybody's away with their husbands, boyfriends, family, wives, no sé qué. And so I went to do it on my own. And about a year ago, well, it was November, that my friend Farai passed away with cancer. And her death for me was a very, not even a strong reminder that you really have to live each day, and not, I don't mean like flippantly, I don't mean like, go live your dreams each day. I mean really live to your truth, and really, really follow your Camino. Like, it makes me so emotional to say, but like, be in your path. Like, walk in your path, find your Camino and walk it. And of course you will go off the path. That was what day 3 was there to remind me of. But her death really reminded me of like really having to own and walk in your path. And it's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy at all. And so, yeah, when you decide that you're going to walk in your path, you will have to make some hard decisions because some things and some people will have to go. And you will have to make some changes. And that is not always an easy thing. Mm-hmm. And so there were a few things that I learned. Oh, sorry about that. There were a few things that I learned on the Camino. And that was, first of all, wherever you go, download your route ahead of plan. And that means actually and metaphorically. So, Lisa, when you want to do 3 days of cycling, download the route onto your Garmin. Plan number 1. Also, when you want to go somewhere in life, you have to plan to get there. You know, most people go like, oh, I want to write a book or I want to do this, but then they make no plans to do it. You gotta download your route ahead of time. You gotta make a plan. You gotta make a plan. And if, you know, I have no doubt that if you're listening to this podcast, it's for a reason. And maybe it's your time to make a plan or download your route or shift into your path. The next lesson I learned was trust locals over Google. And I think this is not just a lesson for travel. This is also a lesson for life. Google isn't always the answer. I think we often think it is, but the more and more I carry on, the more I realize like just how much value humans have. Technology is amazing. I work for a tech company. I absolutely love tech. I have always felt this affinity and been drawn to marketing in tech. But it has to be coupled with humanity. And yeah, it was an amazing experience to have the interaction with the owners of the guest house and the little farmer on the side of the road. It was really, really beautiful. And the third lesson I learned was about like life getting tough, but you being tougher. Life does get tough. We get lost. We go off the path. There is wind. There are dogs. The dogs were so scary for me, so scary. And afterwards, after the experience of the dogs, I thought about like all the fears I have and have had in my life and that there's no way to avoid them. You know, I often think we like try and make life so we don't have to embrace our fears, but more often than not, we do. And when you get to that moment, there is nothing to do. Like you can't escape it. You can't escape the moment with the dogs, wherever that may be in your life. And it's around, like, I think, you know, I don't think we cannot be afraid. I think part of being human is being afraid. But it is really like, what do you do when you're afraid? I was thinking as well about it this morning because I went to boxing. I go to boxing class and I absolutely love it. And I went to boxing and they have this routine and they change the routine every 2 weeks. So you never get too comfortable. It's a bit like life, like change the routine. And I lost my way in boxing this morning. I forgot the routine. And then immediately I had this thought, like, just get back in. don't, first I was like, oh, I'm lost. And then immediately I thought, like, just get back in. And I started again because I saw the girl next to me with her punches, and I was like, cool, just go. And it was kind of the lesson from the Camino. Like, I had a good cry, a phone Chema, and I went to the next town. And then, like, you got to get back on the road. You got to get back on the road, like, whatever happens. And more and more I realize how incredibly powerful resilience is. It's vital. It's vital that we have resilience, and that's why I created my course on resilience, is because things happen in our lives, and you have to get back on track. The Camino for me was overall about being on the path, like being on the way, and what that means to me and how I plan my time. Being on your path is not some kind of like metaphorical abstract concept. It's very real. It's very real. It's about who you spend your time with. It's about how you spend your time. It's about what are the habits you incorporate in your life. It's about who are the people you surround yourself with. A while ago, I actually put a post on LinkedIn with 4 quadrants. And the 4 quadrants were really about knowing yourself. And that's, for me, what it means to be on your path. It's like, it's not about heading in a certain direction. It's about knowing where you want to go, knowing your challenges, knowing your dreams, knowing the habits you need to get there, and knowing what people to surround yourself with. And if you can just be honest with yourself about those 4 quadrants, I think that goes a long way to being on the Camino, which is basically what I mean when I say download your route ahead of plan. Like, decide where you want to go in your life. Like, what are the habits you need to get there? And what are you going to do when things don't go according to plan? Because, like, things do not go according to plan. Like, this is life. Like, shit happens, the wind blows, like, that's what happens. But life gets tough, but we are tougher. So that was my experience of the Camino. It was incredibly soulful. Even if I think about it, it just brings me to tears. It was amazing to finish the Camino with my mom there. We stayed in the most beautiful hotel. We ate the most incredible food, and I feel it an incredible privilege to be alive. And it really made me assess, like, cool, how, what are the things I want to achieve before next year? And so, yes, I can highly recommend, if you ever get the chance to do that, or perhaps if it's not that Camino, perhaps it's another Camino. I really think once a year, once every 2 years, once every 5 years, even, whatever your specific time period is, like, take a few days to yourself, and give yourself some time. It is the greatest gift you can give yourself, time. And do something that inspires you or gives you perspective, or just a change that makes you think differently, or makes you look at the world differently, or examine your path. I think if you can give yourself that gift, you will find yourself firmly in El Camino. So that's it for today. It's not a long episode. It was something I really, really wanted to share, and I want to thank everyone who supported me on the way. It's no big feat in terms of the fact it's not like I cycled the Cape Epic, or it's not that I did any great thing. It's not about that. It was just about like being on new roads for 3 days and really having people who really supported me and wanted to hear from me every day, and I'm extremely grateful. And I want to thank all the people in my life for being so incredible. So yes, I will be back next month with another guest on Bello Dulce. Thank you for listening, and I wish you every blessing and buen camino. Thank you for joining me today. You know what to do. Grab a friend, get on your bikes, drink some coffee, and enjoy the good life. Please, if you love this episode, share it with a friend, subscribe, and I will see you next time for another story on the good life and Bello Dulce.